All right, so let's jump into some movies now, right? Ricardo, you saw Amsterdam. So,
Yeah, I did.
yeah, yeah, I saw a trailer for it.
Sure.
Kind of forgot about it afterwards, honestly. But what really surprised me about this though was the bad reviews it got though. So like the moment I saw like it was getting like negative reception, I was like, nah.
Right.
Um, and even though I know it's from a director that you hate now, David O. Russell, I mean, there are, let me be real, there are a few films that, like the man could make at least a competent film, right? But
Yeah, well,
every
that
so
that that,
often,
that didn't happen now. Why? Like for me, I like Tree
every so
King.
often,
So
right?
yeah, I like Tree Kings. I like Tree Kings for what it was. I like a
Yeah,
couple of
Three
his
Kings
movies,
is still
but
his best work in my opinion.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember being so underwhelmed with oh gosh, the
American
other one,
Hustle.
right? Yeah, I remember being so underwhelmed with that. And like, were people like this man, like, why he's and he does have all this. He to me is I call it the directing equivalent of Mark oh
The Mark
gosh
Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, right? Yeah, he's like that, right? It's just utter mediocrity, but just really well connected for some reason, and just getting a set up of performances and aspects of it.
Well,
Um,
well, as I bring up that, I mean, for better or for worse, he kind of introduced me to Jennifer Lawrence through
okay,
through Silver Linings Playbook.
yeah. Like, yeah. So Silver Linings Playbook, I kind of tolerate. Like not that bad, but I felt they could have done. That could have been punch up, and I was like that win is supposed to be winning Oscar and thing. Like, all right, again nominated. All right.
I know, right? I was
Joy,
like, it that good?
yeah. Like Joy also is another thing. Colossal waste of my time. Like I don't get
And
why
I
this
know
man.
I know Jennifer was nominated for that. But I never
Oh,
watched. I never bothered to.
so he always felt
You
like
could tell
just
me how. I don't
yeah.
know.
He was always one of those guys who was connected. He does feel like a connected guy, and he try to do a thing, but he just feels like that type of Hollywood director now who just completely underwhelming, but is really well connected and just get the stuff done. So he have the machinery, you know, behind him, but it just forgettable now. As a he just utterly mediocre as a filmmaker, to be honest. But yeah, how to describe Amsterdam? So right, so three friends, well, two friends originally in World War One. They were severely injured in World War One. This is Christian Bale and John J.D. Washington. I'm really forgetting character names right now, but yeah. The story starts off in the beginning where it started off in the beginning in the early 30s, I think 1933, where they get accused of a crime. And Taylor Swift is in it, and she's brutally murdered. And in fact, that scene is kind of funny how they do that. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. But Taylor Swift's character is picked off, and there's a big conspiracy involving who trying to kill them because they could have killed them, but they didn't. They just leave them alive. So it's a big mystery. And then they flash back to World War One, where the two of these guys they meet in this company as it was a regiment that was kind of treating them as under second class citizens. This is Chris Rock and J.D. Washington in a black regiment. They weren't being acknowledged, so they replaced the racist commandant with Christian Bale's character, and he's this doctor who will like treat them well and actually like treat them like people. And well, that was the hint at the conceit of the story. And then they meet. They go to in Amsterdam. I think they went to Paris in a French hospital, and they meet Margot Robbie's character. She was their nurse. She healed them, and you find out she was taking all of the debris from their body, all the shrapnel from their body, and making art with it. And then they went to Amsterdam and live a life of like as friends, right? And then J.D. Washington's character and her get into a romantic relationship. Christian Bale goes back to America, and he kind of break up the little band because they had a little vibe going, dancing and enjoying their life and doing art and basically free from the shenanigans of the world, right? In Amsterdam. And then they come back now um, to America, and you find out she went missing, right? She leave J.D. Washington's character, and then now involving the mystery involving Taylor Swift's death. They go to this wealthy family, which is oh gosh, Mr. Robot now, I forget his name. What's the actor
Or
name?
or Rami Malek.
Rami Malek, right? He's this wealthy guy, and they find out that he's the brother of Margot Robbie's character. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's an interesting mystery. She apparently hired Taylor Swift involving to solve a crime, to solve the same crime involving some guy who was murdered. I think it's Taylor Swift's father, to figure out who murdered the father because apparently he was poisoned. And slowly but surely, they started engaging this mystery. So it's a kind of weird comedy of errors / mystery to lead to something involving a conceit. And they wanted to get this famous general, who's this real most decorated general ever up to this point. I forget the guy's name, but it was played by oh god, Robert De Niro, right? Played by De
Oh
Niro.
yeah, he's in that too, because
He's in this, right?
connections, right? Yeah.
Right. And so they had to do this big. You want to do this big speech, and then well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it was at a certain point it was kind of obvious. But basically, it's to do with something involving what going to happen in the next 5 years from the point in time of the storyline, which is 1933. So it's something that leading up to World War II, and it have a bunch of allusions to like real world, like actual capitalists, like Henry Ford and um like all these American industrialists, and they get into a big conceit of the storyline. And so I don't want to spoil it, but if you know why Henry Ford was really really problematic and in a problem was a problem, just look it up, right? Look it up the history, but you'll know what it is. And if I tell you to look it up the history, it kind of spoils the story. But that's a big mystery. And I thought this was a book. Like I thought the story itself, like how it's presented and put forward, I thought this was a book, but no, it's apparently a Russell script. I'm like, all right, but this is actually not half bad for a script though. Like this is not bad at all. I thought it was a book, right? Nope. It was. I thought it was like how the characterization and story world building is. I thought it was that. Apparently not. I don't know if Amsterdam. I seen it. There's an Amsterdam book, but I don't know if it's the same story. No, it's not the same story. Right, there's an Amsterdam book by Ian McEwan, but I don't think that's the same story. No, it's Russell's original script. So no, right. So Russell write it, right? Decent story. They make it work for what it is. A nice, funny, comedy of errors with the three of them. So that's why it is. And then when they reveal it is for what it is. It's pretty decent. And Christian Bale is the only reason that I stick around watching this, because everything else was incompetent and mediocre, right?
Wow.
Undermine. Now he should have get somebody else. He should have get somebody else to write the to direct this, seriously, because the directing is so incompetent and mediocre and forgettable. It's just a bunch of bad, baffling shots that just something that a film student is, well, film student shit. Like I know it because I was one, right? It just forgettable, really bad. The blocking of the scenes is pretty bad. The only person who holding everything up, and because what Christian Bale's character is, because of his injuries, is damaged now. Like he had to wear a back brace and his body is all out of proportion. Yeah, he's a cripple effectively, hunched over. And yeah, the body language was nailing it. There's a lot of funny beats with him. In terms of jokes, like all the funniest parts is Christian Bale. He actually have surprisingly, like you see him as Mr. Serious Man, but yeah, some of the funniest beats in it. Everybody else was forgettable. Margot Robbie is trying to be funny, but she was forgettable. Like her character is this kind of artsy Maya Deren type figure. I'm not really sure who she's supposed to be, like comparison wise, but the person I keep thinking is Maya Deren, because they have all these art pieces at the end, because she's into photography and is just like really weird art surrealism stuff. So it's a little, it's like she's like a female Louise Buñuel, but a little bit of Maya Deren. Like it's that era, that era of what's called by what's that type of
experimental.
Yeah, kind of experimental Dadaist kind of era of art. No, she's that, right? It's Louise Buñuel. If you know Louise Buñuel, right? It's that, right? And then John David Washington was neither here nor there for me. He was just normal. It's fine. He's a straight man in the jokes, but he's not really that funny and working. But it is, I think, when you find out what's going on, you realize that their relationship is a lot closer. Then it's a lot more important to the core narrative of it. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but I already kind of tell you what's going on with Henry Ford. And that's it. Like it's I make the real biting joke that if the real reason why Christian Bale wearing a back brace is because he's holding up the whole movie. He's the only reason. He's the only reason I watched it, because all of his bits were great, and there's a lot of in the movie, and it's a little bit of a white savior movie, but like I didn't really have a problem with that given the context of it and who his character is too, and. It's a real shame. It's a real shame that it's wasted. Like, ironically, the person who wrote it shouldn't have directed. Right? It's a shame. It's a shame that it's wasted on such a mediocre and forgettable director. At least in my opinion. But the movie sucked. Like, it just didn't work in that way. And rating, only because it have all these stars and the production value looks good and the sets look good, that it gets bumped up to a 5 out of 10. right? I was really, really underwhelmed with this. I didn't think it would have been. It's shocking how much of a squandered opportunity this is. Like you're just watching it and it's like, wait, but it's just a waste of talent here. Chris Rock is utterly pointless in this. Like it feels like if they just cut off a lot of John D. Washington's line just to give him, because to me John D. Washington could have those lines. Like again, I don't know gonna spoil it because it's the core of the conceit, but he says something that's important, that involving something important with the thing. Again, not gonna spoil it. But I was like, yeah, he just reading lines. He not funny, shockingly not funny. But when it's time for him to like tell a bit, he just doing his stand-up routine. And like Chris Rock, get out the movie. Like I would have just cut you out of this movie. This character is pointless. It's like he just doing his stand-up material. And it's pretty bad. Like I heard it had like a little controversy involving him and Christian Bale. Like Christian Bale didn't want to talk to him or something like that. But to me, he was just like
so I've heard, but I want to see the show first before I jump into that to find
nah,
out.
well, it's just him slugging down the movie and wasting everybody's time with thing. Like, why is he in this movie? Whatever. Yeah, 5 out of 10. It's a movie that I was expecting it to be mediocre because I see the name, I see who directing it, but it's like, wait, all these good stars in it, all these big people in it, and it's like, hey, look, this person face and that person face, and so on and so forth. And it's a real shame that they can just put this can stitch together better. But yeah, 5 out of 10. You know, it if it wasn't for Christian Bale, I'd probably get a 4 out of 10, and if it wasn't for the sets and all of the like costumes and you know just the production value around it, it'll probably get a 3 out of 10, and so on and so forth. All these little small things just held it up, just barely held it up. But it's only because the guy very connected to make this happen in this way. But it's shocking they just wasted all this talent in this mediocre slug of a film. It's a shame. It's unfortunate. So that's about it. 5 out of 10.
Sad, yes. Sad.
Yeah, real sad.